my parents' wedding, which was earlier this year. Oh, sorry, not my parents. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Esperanza. This is my husband, Andrew.
Hi.
And he's joining me today to talk with you guys about ways to save on a DIY wedding. So we broke this up into categories and more tips for you guys. So let's just go ahead and get started. That being said, we just had our wedding in September, so a few months ago, and we basically DIY'd the whole thing ourselves. So we thought this would be a helpful video for anyone trying to DIY their wedding or just save a little bit here and there on their wedding.
And we had a very expedited timeline.
That's true.
We didn't have a year to plan ours. We got engaged in like April and our wedding was in September. So that's like 6 months.
It was exactly 6 months.
Yeah.
Without a wedding planner.
Yeah.
So I think we know a little bit about how to do this. So let's go ahead and get started with the first category, which is the venue.
So I would say for the venue, get creative. It doesn't have to be a traditional wedding venue by any means. You're going to go to these, big wedding venues and they're going to charge you at least $10,000. Minimum $10,000, just to rent the space. And that doesn't include like all of the, tables and linens and the plates and everything that they add on top of it. So those things add up really, really fast. So I would say just get creative. If there's a family member that you have that has a really beautiful property or backyard, if there's a local park that you really find beautiful, sometimes botanic gardens will have weddings there.
Other like public spaces like
public
that
spaces
will be a little bit more affordable.
Yeah, you have to still reach out to the city in those public spaces to make sure that you can use the lands. But a lot of those, they'll charge, just less than $1,000.
So weddings booked during the week are always cheaper. I feel like that's a pretty well-known fact, but just something to keep in mind. Also booking during the off season. So our wedding was at the end of September. Basically here in Arizona, like there are no weddings happening in the summer because it's way too hot here. So our weekend was like the first weekend at the very beginning of the season opening up again for weddings. So because of that, we were able to get a really good deal on our venue. Because I'm a blogger content creator, I often collaborate with brands and businesses. So that was something that we collaborated with the venue as well. So we were able to save quite a bit more on top of that. So the next category is decor. So this covers like tabletop decor, your display, like your arch display, the aisle decor.
And this is mainly her area of expertise. So
now yours too. Andrew did so much work on this. So basically we planned several thrift trips a week to all the different Goodwills in our area to look for baskets. And we even found like florals and things like that. Andrew was actually checking Facebook Marketplace like every single day to find whatever it was. We were like, oh, you know what? We're going to need this. He was on there looking to see and found like so many amazing deals on there. You found a listing that was plate chargers. And it was also these linen napkins, and it was like little glass vases for the tables, these gold candlestick holders, and it was all for like $25.
Yeah. A lot of times these, people that are having DIY weddings, they just want to get rid of this stuff.
And make like a little bit of money back.
Yeah. So you can get some really good deals.
Yes. So Facebook Marketplace, for sure, you're going to want to be checking very often, and then checking your Goodwills very often as well. We thrifted a lot of ceramic vases for our tabletop decor. We knew that we wanted to have these like ceramic vases, just like the look of that was what we were looking for. And our wedding theme was kind of like boho modern. So obviously that went along really well with that theme.
Just in general, just have a plan for what you want your tables to look like, what you want your wedding to look like in general. And then just make a big spreadsheet of all the stuff that you need to get, So like for our tables, we knew that we needed to have 2 or 3 vases per table. We needed to have this many candlestick holders.
And that was based on like, we did a mock tablescape because we knew how big our tables were going to be. And that's how we were able to figure out, okay, we need this many vases per table. We need this many candlesticks based on our design. So that was like a good way of figuring out quantities for things so that when we went to Goodwill, we knew like how many vases we still needed,
Yeah.
you know, how many candlesticks we still needed.
Yeah, we also used a lot of like natural elements that are free, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, we went to Sedona on a trip and we just got a bunch of those red Sedona rocks and we decorated the table with those,
Yeah.
along with, you know, the vases and stuff that we bought. And we also had, you know, a box of driftwood
Driftwood.
from Oregon shipped over from a friend of mine. So obviously that was free to us as well. So utilize free resources as well.
Yes, like if you live near a forest, you can gather a bunch of pine cones. If you live near the beach, driftwood, you know, forest vibe wedding, pine cones and rocks are going to be good for that, like pebbles and things like from the river.
Yeah.
Beach wedding, driftwood, that kind of thing. Sea glass would be pretty. Okay, so moving on to the next category, which is florals. So we, ahead of time, we knew that we wanted to do dried florals. Fresh florals die really quickly, whereas with dried florals, we were able to buy them ahead of time. We thrifted some, like I mentioned, like we just got lucky sometimes and found like a pampas bundle at Goodwill. And actually there was a lot that Andrew got, and randomly they had just like this big box of dried florals.
But we also just got some on Amazon too.
Yeah, some on Amazon. I already had some because we already used dried florals.
Yeah, so we were able to take, you know, one, you know, probably several nights a week basically, and basically just make the dried florals ahead of time, like months and months ahead of time.
Yeah.
And just keep them in our garage. The florals were like done like months before the wedding even started.
Yes, and I was able to like tweak them, like figure out how much more we needed, that kind of thing. Andrew did order some dried baby's breath, which was super inexpensive and kind of bulky too, so it helped fill up the vases. I knew that I wanted to incorporate palm fans into all of our florals, and my parents actually have a ton of palm trees. So whenever they were trimming their trees, they just saved the palm fans for us, along with some that I already had. And we just kind of incorporated them into all of our different like vases.
So yeah, that's a good way to just keep things inexpensive, because fresh florals are, you know, very expensive. You know, any way you do it, even if you go to a wholesale flower shop, it's going to be expensive.
Yeah, and you can really only get them like maybe a day before. Dried florals was like really the way to go, and that was the look we wanted anyway.
It was really beautiful too.
With the palm fans, they were obviously just like raw natural palm fans, so we like let them dry out in our backyard, just like all laid out flat, and then trim them into different shapes, like arches and like pointed ones. So there was like work involved in this, but obviously it was worth it because we got a quote from a florist that was like $10,000 based on what we wanted, which was just like, there's no way, like
and
that's
we probably
crazy.
Did all of the dried florals for like under 200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my bouquet and the bridesmaids bouquets we made ourselves. We watched like a quick little tutorial just to figure out like how do they do it, like how do they get it to stay and that kind of thing. And so it was a lot of like the big flowers in the back. I used like a big palm fan in the back, and then you kind of like fill the front. So we basically used palm fans that we had, some florals we had. We also got a few bouquets from Trader Joe's that were like dried bouquets, and just kind of took it apart, laid it out, and we both just started designing them until they were at a point that we liked them, and they came out really great.
Yeah, if there's something that you're not really confident about, like making a bouquet, like just look up a tutorial, you know, like we didn't know how to do this stuff beforehand. We actually made our like, arch display that goes above the altar. We made that ourselves too. We got like a little foam box, you know, and just like put some things in there until it looked good. And we looked up a tutorial on how to do that. It was
fun. We basically had to do these things in the evening after our toddler was asleep. That was like really the only time that we could work on things uninterrupted and without him trying to get into it. So it was just like every evening chipping away at things basically. Okay, so this next category I'm going to let Andrew mainly speak on. So food and cake. So Andrew's actually a chef, and he also has like a ton of experience with baking.
Yeah, so obviously I cooked all the food myself. I did the cake myself as well, and I know that not a lot of people are going to be able to do that or going to be willing to do that. But catering is a huge expense at weddings, very, very big expense. So in order to cut that cost, I think the easiest thing would either, if you are comfortable making it yourself and just hiring servers to come in and serve the food. That's kind of what we did.
Yeah.
I made all the foods, the day before, days leading up to it, and then we hired, 2 servers that put the food out and served all the food to everybody. That was the easiest way for us to make it work. But if you're not willing to make the food yourself, do you have someone in your family that loves to cook? Do you have a friend that owns a restaurant? Is there a restaurant in your area that just opened and they're looking for business? A lot of these places will do catering, even if they don't have it listed on their websites. If they're new restaurants, a lot of them will be willing to do catering events.
Yeah.
For less than a lot of other caterers will.
Or if you have a friend who loves baking, recruit them to make the cake or cupcakes or something like that. Like anything to just save a little bit of money. If you have a friend who's a bartender, we had to hire bartenders for our wedding.
Yeah.
That was a requirement from the venue.
A lot of venues will require a bartender. So that's, expense you have to budget for if you're using a venue.
Depending on your venue, yeah.
So for our food, we did like an Italian menu, basically. Because we're both Italian. That was kind of like our vibe. We had a lot of Italian music and everything too.
Yeah. We wanted to have an Italian destination wedding.
Yeah. It didn't happen. So we did the next best thing.
Yeah.
So how I made the meals myself, the food myself, was like the sauces I made the day before. So we had like a cream sauce, we had a pesto, and we had a red sauce. I just made all of the sauces ahead of time, put them in big, 10-quart, 4-quart containers, something like that. And just kept them in the fridge. I also made the focaccia bread myself the day before, and then just froze it until it was ready to be thawed the next day. And I put it in the fridge or the oven just to crisp it up before the wedding. The pasta, I had some friends of mine from Colorado help me make that the day of.
That were in like the restaurant industry too.
Yeah. So they helped me make the pasta the day of. The meats, so we did like 2 different types of meat. We did meatballs, which I made the day before. And then just cooled them down and kept them in the fridge. Same thing with the chicken. I did some chicken saltimbocca. So I'd made all that the day before, just put it in the fridge till it was ready, and then heated it up before the wedding.
And we just figured, like, who doesn't love pasta? Who doesn't love bread and salad? So it was like, it was what we wanted, but it was also like kind of the easiest.
Yeah.
Like it took some planning, like planning out like that, but
yeah, there's gonna be a lot of logistics, especially with heating things up the day of. But if you're hiring some servers, make sure they show up, several hours before the wedding starts, so they have time to heat up whatever food you have.
Like get them in like the sternos and stuff.
The chafing dishes, yeah.
Yeah, Andrew found all of that stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and what he couldn't, he ordered on Amazon. And then we basically just sold afterwards. Yeah. Also, the cake, Andrew made a delicious cannoli flavored cake for us, and like mini cupcakes. And for our cake, we kind of just chose what was going to be like the simplest and easiest thing for you and still look like beautiful.
Yeah. It wasn't a naked cake, but it was, it was more rustic looking.
Rustic looking. And then we just like topped it with we did like these dried oranges and cut them in half or like in whole pieces just on the top.
A little bit of eucalyptus.
With some eucalyptus.
And then with the cake also, I made that a week before the wedding and then just kept it in the freezer until the day of.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to rentals. So our venue actually did come with these like plastic folding chairs and folding tables, but we didn't really want to use those. Obviously, like if you're on a budget wedding, that is a pretty smart thing to do, is to use those kinds of tables. They're going to be a lot more affordable. But we kind of wanted a little bit more of an elevated look. So we ended up finding a rental company that was willing to collaborate with me on the rentals. And we did these like rustic farmhouse style tables and chairs, even though I wouldn't say that our wedding was like farmhouse at all, but it had just kind of like this rustic look to it that went along with our like modern bohemian vibe that we were going for. And that was like worth the expense because it instantly just like
made it all look better,
made everything look really elevated. You kind of have to figure out like, is that, what is the most important aspect to you on your wedding? So that was kind of an important aspect to us. You can often find people renting stuff out on Facebook Marketplace as well. Maybe see if you can find like a more affordable option through renting on Facebook Marketplace. There are people who like specifically have listings where they're renting things out and it's like for weddings or events.
Yeah, a lot of people do that as a side hustle, especially here in the Phoenix area. I feel like there's a lot of them. So people will, buy a bunch of tables and they'll just do that as their side hustle. They'll rent out these tables, they'll rent out these chairs to people, and it's a lot cheaper than you would find at a rental company.
Yeah, or rent out like an arch display. There were even people renting out their backyards. For like a wedding venue. Just like people who have a really beautiful desert landscape in their backyard, and that's the look someone's going for, so they're renting it out for like $1,000 or something for however many hours. Okay, so the next thing that we wanted to talk about is the wedding dress. So one of the things that I would suggest would be to check Facebook Marketplace, because actually just yesterday I sold my wedding dress to this gal who's having her wedding in a couple of months. She was going to wear her mom's wedding dress, but the mom was like, no, it's ugly. Like, her mom was the one who found my listing and had her daughter come try it on, and they loved it. But my wedding dress was $1,500 brand new. The veil was like around $600, and she ended up getting both for $600. And that was even including dry cleaning. So an amazing deal, obviously. Another thing I would suggest would be to check for maybe charity events in your area. There is a charity event for brides for wedding dresses that Andrew found on Facebook.
It's in the Phoenix area.
In the Phoenix area, so it depends on where you live, but sometimes you can find events like that where you can actually, they're like giving a dress to a bride, and it's kind of like first come, first serve. You can also try consignment stores. So I got my wedding dress at Wedding Bells in Chandler, and they have like a sister shop basically right next door. It's specifically consignment dresses, so dresses that were lightly worn, and it's like by appointment, but you could obviously save a lot of money through a consignment shop like that. Another thing that you can do is borrow a friend or a family member's dress. So like I said, even though the mom thought that her dress was too ugly for her daughter to wear, maybe your mom did have like a beautiful wedding dress, or maybe your friend or cousin is like your size and you can borrow their wedding dress. Like, it just depends on how much you really are wanting to save. For some brides, it's like, no, I have to have like the, my dream dress or whatever. But if that's not as important to you, consider borrowing a dress, something like that. That's like a big thing to save on.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so next is photography, videography, which is obviously a big expense.
Yeah, and it's more than you would think. Honestly, we didn't think it was going to cost that much, but when we started getting quotes, it's like crazy the amount that photographers charge.
Yes, like minimum.
Yeah, I don't know if it's
3,000.
just the Phoenix area, but it was like very, very expensive. So keep that in mind. And some ways that you could, get around that cost is, find a photographer who's just getting started in the business. Using Facebook, Facebook groups for, weddings, things like that is a good resource.
You can find photographers on there offering their services.
A lot of them will charge a lot less when they're first getting started. So look for those type of photographers. You can also have somebody that's in your family take the pictures. Just utilize your resources. If you know people that take good photos, maybe invite them to the wedding and have them be the photographer.
Yeah. So like, for example, I had my sister's boyfriend vlog the wedding for me. So like horizontal shots for YouTube, I basically assigned him to do that, and he did a really good job. I just wanted to have footage basically of the wedding, like, so that I could edit a home style video together. So whatever he got, I was going to be happy with. But we did end up collaborating with a photographer, videographer for our wedding, just because I was collaborating with a lot of different businesses. I was collaborating with a brand who had reached out to me for the wedding dress. I needed to know that I was going to get good photos and videos, basically. So that was something that was important, but we were able to collaborate on. So obviously that's like a lucky thing. But yeah, just like Andrew was saying, sometimes you can find like these up and coming photographers. For example, I actually shot my parents' friend was getting married, they're friends, and they wanted a photographer. They wanted like some nice photos, but they didn't want to pay these exorbitant prices. So they had me shoot their wedding. I've also shot other weddings for friends and family in the past.
And it was very affordable.
Very affordable for them. Yeah, I think I charged them like $300, like hardly anything. Okay, so the next category is DJ/music. It depends on like what kind of a vibe you want at your wedding. Like if you want like a pop-in wedding where like everyone's, hitting the dance floor, then maybe it's going to be important to invest in a DJ. I think like the minimum quotes I was getting for DJs were like around $3,000. And we had actually found a DJ who was the DJ at that friend's wedding that I shot. And he was going to do ours for like $450 or $500.
Mm-hmm.
But my friend who was coming to our wedding, her partner is a DJ. She actually ended up giving us that as a wedding gift.
Mm-hmm.
Was basically she just asked her partner like, hey, like would you maybe do their wedding as a gift to them? So that was a huge blessing.
Mm-hmm. We did pay a little bit, but
we paid him a little bit.
Amount.
Yes, like and it was less than we would have even paid that DJ from the other wedding, who was kind of just like a just getting started DJ.
Yeah, and that's a good point also. Like the same thing with the photographer, these DJs that are doing it as a side gig, or they're just getting started. They want to do it full time, but they're not quite there yet. So you can get a good price.
So our DJ was like, I think normally the gigs he does are like minimum 5,000. Yeah. So that also really, I hate the word elevated seems weird, but it kind of like elevated the wedding. So
yeah, it just made it more fun.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it also was like a pressure off of us because we knew that he was going to play like the right ceremony music at the right times. But that's another thing that you can do to save money is some people will have like a day of wedding coordinator, which we did have and I'll get to. But you could have like your day of wedding coordinator be the one who like
starts the music,
stops the music.
Yeah,
exactly.
Changes the playlist. Yeah.
Yes, and then you can make your own playlist. Like that was something that we were considering doing at one point, was just making our own playlist and playing that on the speakers for like, the dancing portion of your wedding.
Yeah.
So like little things like that you can do. Okay, so now we're going to go into just like some random expenses and ways to save money on those things. So we actually made our own gift bags, and it was with like candles that we already had. So we have a little Etsy shop and we had these like candles that we're selling on there. So we just took some of those bigger candles, melted them down again, and poured them into like these tiny little, almost like shot glass type candles. So we put like one of those in there. We also ordered Palo Santo. We had our little small Sedona stones and some dried florals and tied them into like a bundle. And that was that's like the vibe that we wanted, which was like kind of natural. Like we wanted our gift bags to be
have some sort of utility to it, I guess.
Yeah. And we didn't
not
really
just go straight into the trash like most.
Exactly. I don't want to be rude or anything, because if that is your vibe, go for it. But we just didn't want things that were like Andrew and Esperanza wedding, like 2020. Like we just didn't want something that it's going to end up just going in the trash. It was with our hand labor, like we handmade everything, So I think it made it more special and we ended up saving money. Okay, so basically I wanted to go over just like more tips on how to save money on your wedding. So the number one thing I would say is your labor is going to be like the biggest thing in saving you money for your wedding in the long run. And by labor, I mean like making the florals yourselves, like we did, making the arch display yourself.
Yeah, going to Goodwill like 20,000.
Yeah, so like time and labor.
It's a trade-off, but if you're trying to do it on a really tight budget, like you're gonna put in some effort.
So another tip going along with that is just to like block out time in your day, whether it's in the morning or whether it's in the evening. Like I said, the evenings worked best for us, and that's pretty much all we did every evening for months was check things off of our to-do list. Another tip is to make spreadsheets, make to-do lists to keep everything organized, and just start checking things off the list every day, like making sure that you're doing
I think we made a big spreadsheet of all the things that needed to be done, when they needed to be done by, so you can prioritize, okay, these are the things that are most important right now, versus this can be done, a week before the wedding. So, prioritizing things that matter most in that moment?
So, as I mentioned earlier in the video, we hired a day of coordinator, and I would say that that was definitely something worth doing. Like in our case, we really didn't need a wedding planner, like an event planner or a wedding planner, because we already knew what we wanted. But what we did need and what was worth it was having a day of coordinator to just like make sure everything was running smoothly. She's checking with the DJ, she's letting, people know what's going on,
Yeah, to
basically,
schedule events.
because that was something that we were a little bit stressed about, because since we're the bride and groom, like we can't be the ones saying like, hey, like
Go sit down.
hey, yeah, like, hey, dinner now, like just
Yeah.
like
Got a cowbell like ding ding ding, dinner's
yeah.
ready.
So it just was, and some people will hire like maybe their mom or
Mhm.
maybe their best friend or just a friend or a family member to do that for them, if you have someone like that in your life that is good at that. For example, like your cousin Claire, she probably would have been a good day of coordinator, but she had like a really young baby.
Yeah, we wanted her to enjoy the
and we
wedding.
wanted her to enjoy the wedding.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. But if you do have somebody who like they love doing that, then you can make them your day of coordinator.
And then with that as well, like having a plan for the schedule of events for your wedding.
Yeah.
Very detailed list of things happening. So we had, a document for the service. We had a document for the DJ. We had a document for a day of coordinator, like timeline.
So they knew all their tasks.
This is happening at this time. This is happening at this time. During this time, you need to do this. Like we broke down the entire wedding and printed out documents for each people.
Yeah, and it was a lot of nights of going through it together and thinking of like every detail. I posted on the Facebook groups that we needed a server, the date, and all that. And we had a lot of people messaging us interested, but then just kind of like no one was following through. But luckily, we were able to find someone who was reliable and like showed up. Thank God.
Yeah, I would suggest just signing a contract with that person, just they're locked in. Even if you're not paying them a lot to do it, just making sure that they're going to be there on the day is, a big peace of mind. And just if you're hiring bartenders and servers, make sure they have experience, make sure they have the right certifications as well. If they have their food handler's card. So
another tip is to try to keep everything in good condition so that you're able to sell things afterwards. We were able to sell pretty much everything. I think we have like a few things left, but the majority of everything from our wedding we've already sold, and it's only been a few months.
Yeah, and we got either the same price that we paid for it or pretty close to it for most things.
For most things, yeah.
So just keeping the original packaging and just making sure that nothing gets damaged or scratched up if possible. Yeah,
even like after our wedding was over, Andrew was like the only one left, and you were there just putting everything away to make sure it was going to be, in good condition. So it's worth the effort if you want to try to make back some of that money and just, save, recoup some of the money. Okay, guys, so that's everything that we wanted to share with you guys on how to save and how to plan a DIY wedding on a budget. So hopefully you guys found this video helpful. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. Also be sure to check back because Andrew and I have a lot of like fun ideas that we're doing for like cooking videos. We've also been doing travel tips, things like that. So be sure to check back for those videos. Also follow along with me on all socials at The Urban Darling. Check out my blog, theurbandarling.com. And I will see you guys in my next video. And we'll see Andrew in one of those upcoming videos.
Yeah. I'll be there.
Okay, bye.